Hello, I'm Barbara Levin with Toby's Fund for Reproductive Health Equity. Thank you for joining us. Happy New Year, 2023. Toby's Fund is a nonprofit that helps fund abortions, emergency contraception, and pregnancy prevention for those who can't afford the services. We fund nonprofits, not individuals, and our services are only for residents of McHenry County, Illinois. We wish to help those who believe that a person who is capable of getting pregnant can also determine their own health decisions for themselves. I have a specific memory about growing up in Marengo. I read a lot. I always have. And though I tend to shy away from pursuing a book that also is the occupation of most of my days, that is reproductive rights, sometimes I can't resist. This happened recently when I picked up a book, Happening. It is in French, so I read the translation. It's a very short book. It's under 100 pages, and it is Miss Ernaux recounting when, as a single student in 1963, she found she was pregnant and did not want to be. Attitudes in 1963 Paris very much mimicked attitudes throughout the world where abortion was a crime, the pregnant person was on their own, and the only choices they had were carrying the fetus to term, trying a myriad of dangerous ways to self-abort, or finding a hopefully safe, albeit still dangerous, and always expensive, illegal abortionist, a criminal option. Miss Ernaux executed the latter two, first inserting a knitting needle into herself to attempt self-aborting to disastrous, unsuccessful, and painful failure, and then managed to find an anonymous and hopefully safe woman, cum abortionist, who did successfully manage to abort her pregnancy, though it was very traumatic and painful. Unfortunately, she had, like thousands of other people throughout the world, no other options. She was branded no matter what she did, though 40 years later, when she wrote this, she was grateful for the decision she made. This book, on reflection, brought up a memory for me that had not entered my mind in over 50 years. I grew up in Marengo, Illinois. My grade school days were occupied with family, school, the public library, and sports. I was blissfully unaware of most things that went on around me. I had noticed, however, that the boys in school were using a new insult. They had put jackets under their shirts, would parade around and say, "Look, I'm Andrea." I've changed the name here. I was clueless. Eventually, the girls in my class started using the same name, Andrea, as an insult for seemingly every infraction. Again, I was clueless. It turns out there was a real Andrea, a local 16-year-old who was visibly pregnant and unmarried. She was bullied and derided in our little town. Eventually, she quit high school, disappeared, and then eventually returned, not pregnant. She continued to be horribly bullied and condemned, had lost a year of high school, but managed to persist, graduating a year later as valedictorian, and went on to college, away, hopefully, from the bullying and judgment. That's all I know. Andrea became an eponymous adjective in Marengo for many more years. This teenager had to bear the shame, basically alone. How amazing was the 1973 Supreme Court right to abortion. How astounding that people could share with others the burden of an unplanned pregnancy. There were now safe alternatives. And thanks to organizations like ours, Toby's Fun, and lots of kind people, less financially burdensome ones as well. How horrible that the 2022 Supreme Court took that right away. We all know an Andrea, and the majority of people remember the burden, the bullying, the dangers, the deaths of viable reproductive aged people. Remember Andrea, and keep fighting. We will. Some important and encouraging news was released on January 3rd, 2023. The Federal Drug Administration, the FDA, has announced that for the first time, regulatory change of rules allowing retail pharmacies from corner drugstores to major chains like Walgreens and CVS will be allowed to offer abortion pills, misoprostone, in the U.S. The action could significantly expand access to abortion through medication. Go FDA! That's it. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.